Welcome to AMP, the Agegroup Multisport podcast. AMP gives Agegroup multisporters a platform to share their journeys to representing their country. Welcome to episode 7 of AMP. Thanks for listening. Since the last episode, which featured age grouper Sarah Harding, social distancing has been relaxed and we've been out on a few social runs and rides with our group of friends, which has been nice. Also had a go on the Tour de Zwift, done 3 stages on that, which was interesting and quite testing at times. Still not been back swimming, but anybody who knows me will find that as too much of a surprise. So, episode 7 features Lee Ross, GB age grouper, ridiculously sporty growing up in a sports-mad family, and reaching semi-pro status at football. That all stopped after he had a car crash and broke his back. The resulting pain and discomfort Lee found after the accident meant that he stopped doing exercise completely. So he channeled his competitive streak into his role at work as a sales guy. He found himself in what he calls as a more normal life, where he was going out drinking and socialising. He was working up to 70 hours a week, and he ballooned up to 18.5 stone. And the stress of work put Lee back into hospital and made him once again reassess his life. After quitting his job, Lee started walking his dog and losing the weight that he'd gained. He then got into park runs, and he set a goal to run a half marathon, only to once again injure himself a mile from the end. Being told he couldn't run for a while, and not wanting to put the weight back on that he'd already lost, Lee started biking and swimming, and then joined his local tri club. So through a range of lifestyle changes, on a path dogged with misfortune and injury, he found his way into multisport. And like most of us multisporters, made it his lifestyle. Good afternoon.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Nice to see you.
And you? And you? It's nice to see you in real life rather than just photos and listening to your voice.
Absolutely. How's things in lockdown?
Not too bad. Yeah, not too bad. It's pretty much same as it normally is. I work from home, the wife works from home, so we've just got used to that. We've got a gym here, so I do a lot of training indoors anyway, so that wasn't too much of a shock. The only difference was I've had a 4-year-old asking me 300 questions a day, whereas normally she's at nursery. So yeah, that's been the challenging bit.
Cool. So whereabouts are you in the country?
Redditch. So just south of Birmingham, sort of East Worcestershire.
Yeah, I've worked down in Redditch a couple of times.
Oh yeah, okay, you know it,
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, where are you?
We're in Lincolnshire.
Okay.
Have you heard of Cleethorpes? Skegness?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, we're on that. Yeah. We're on that coast. Miles and miles of sandy beaches.
Right. Well, and windy beaches as
well.
Very,
very windy. Yeah, I was out this morning for supposedly before the wind kicked in, and I did cut it short, I must admit, and ended up coming home and going on Zwift because I was just getting blown around like a kite. So I thought, I'm not.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
I can imagine it's sort of when there's no wind, there's no better roads and sort of better for cycling. But yeah, other than that, but it improves your bike skills.
Yeah, well, that's true. It is. There are some nice roads over here, actually. So can't complain. And the wind makes you stronger, so that's fine. So we can start off by giving us a bit of background of your childhood sporting adventures, and then take it from there.
Okay. Well, I'm from a sporting family. I've got a brother who's 6 years older than me, so growing up in a small village when you used to play 30-a-side football games, it was normally with his friends and things, so you learn the hard way to be competitive with the older kids. My dad played football through till he was mid-40s, so my brother, myself, and my dad all played in the same football team.
Wow.
My dad was, he also took up cricket when we started playing cricket, and we played in the same first team at our cricket club as well. So we've got it's a genetic thing with our mentality of just getting on with it and being the best that you can be, really. So that's the environment I was brought up in. Went to a rugby playing school, although I played football, so I switched to rugby. And gave football for a bit, and played cricket for the county all the way through up to under-19s. So a bit of cross country here and there, some badminton. Just played everything. I was just one of those kids. Wherever there's a racket or a ball, give it me, and within half an hour, I could hold my own.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Sounds a fulfilled childhood.
Yeah, well, it was. I didn't really have any other hobbies other than sport. It was even sort of outside of playing. I started managing a under-13 boys football team when I was 16.
Right.
I was only sort of 3 or 4 years older than the lads themselves, but that was my hobby. That was my sort of relaxing and fun time. So it was all about playing or coaching. That was. And that's all. It's always been that. I've continued to coach. I'm quite good in some ways to be coached, but quite awkward in others because I'm very analytical.
Right.
So when the coach tells me to do this type of step, so it might be a high cadence or whatever it is, I ask lots of questions. Why are we doing this? What are you thinking? What are the benefits? So I get on with it, but I'm also keen to learn. Which now I've moved house and moved further away from my coach, I've had to self-coach a lot more. So having that understanding, it's allowed me to piece together a better training plan than I would have if I hadn't have asked those questions.
Absolutely, yeah. So how did you get into the multisport world, if you like?
Through injury.
Okay.
Which is not the normal way. So I gave up sport after a pretty bad car accident. I broke 3 vertebrae in my upper back.
How old were you at this point?
23.
Okay.
So I was a semi-pro footballer, played a good competitive level of cricket in the summer, and then it all sort of fell apart after that. My hamstrings, and I picked up a lot of hip and hamstring problems after that. Though just knocked on the head, it was too painful to keep going through that process.
That must have been really hard after being so sporty.
Yeah, it was. And I didn't go off the rails by any means, but it was the first time in my life that I could go on sort of a summer holiday with my friends without sort of worrying about football, or I could go out on a Friday night because I didn't have a game on the Saturday, because I've always been very dedicated with the sport, so I missed out on a lot of things. So I started living a more normal life, and that involves drinking and whatever, and not actually watching what I ate, and I started putting on weight, simple as that. That and then just getting engrossed because of the competitive edge, being in sales as I was at the time. My competitive edge took over with my job, so I focused on topping all the sales leaderboards, and so just followed that lifestyle and progressed quickly with work and had a successful time, but to the detriment of my health. I was working sort of 70-hour weeks, earning a lot of money, partying at the weekends, so burning myself out pretty much, and then couple of stints in hospital for various illnesses, and and I realised that I needed a lifestyle change. And my wife, who's always supported me, I sort of had time to sit back. The one time when we had a honeymoon, and I worked every day on honeymoon.
Right.
So I was really engrossed in it, and that wasn't really fair on her, but she didn't complain. That was just the lifestyle we had, and it was allowing us to get on the property ladder and so on and so forth. And then a couple of years later, we went on a second honeymoon to try and make up for it, and it was only then that it dawned on me, having a couple of days off, didn't take my laptop, and I realised that things had to change. So I rang up work. We had a conversation. I said, I don't want to do this anymore, and rang up work and said, I'm not coming back. We're going to stay out here for another week.
Right.
So we so they weren't too happy, but we had a 2-week break in the Caribbean, and I went home refreshed, handed in my notice the next day with no job or anything lined up, just life needed to change. And the day after I did that, I just took up walking. I was 18 and a half stone.
Wow.
And I just took up walking, and me and the dog just went across the fields every morning. The weight started coming off, and my sister, who's a marathon runner, she encouraged me to start running and then do the park run.
Yeah.
I'd avoided running for years because it hurt my hips and knees and back, but with less weight, there's less stress on those bits. So, so I took a park run, and I think it was a 25-minute park run the first time I went, and that was on the back of a few weeks training.
That's good.
And then I just carried on, and I ended up doing the Birmingham Half Marathon.
Okay.
That was my goal, and I was in mile 12, and I tore my Achilles.
Oh.
So I hopped the last mile,
right,
which wasn't pretty.
No.
And then I went to see the physio, and he said, you can't run for 4 or 5 months, but swimming will be good for it in a few weeks, and cycling will be good for it.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to stop. I'd lost all this weight and couldn't bear not carrying on and putting that weight back on.
Yeah. You got the momentum going, so you wanted to keep it going. That's totally understandable, isn't it? Exactly, and we started a family at this point as well. So I was active dad, and I didn't want to go back to sort of being the not as great a role model. Yeah. So I thought, well, the cheapest way of swimming and cycling is joining the Tri Club over the winter, because they had turbo sessions or spin classes, and they did swimming sessions, so I could get some coaching, because I hadn't swam or ridden a bike since I was 10. Yeah. So I thought, right, I'll join the Tri Club, and by the time that I could start running again, they were starting the Go Tri sort of short distance triathlons, and I borrowed a bike, and it all started from there. Which Tri Club was that? That was Redditch. So Triathlon Redditch. Okay. And are you still a member? No, I switched to Evesham Vale. Right. I left Redditch. Redditch is it's grown massively. It's really on the back of the park. There's a big park run community in Redditch, and a lot of people were introduced. But I felt that my coach that I'd found was also the swim coach at EVT. Okay. So I thought moving there, I could get more coaching with him. And it just worked out. It was just a decision to try and improve quicker. That was the way. What was your first goal? What was your first try that you were aiming for? First goal was to get into the GB age group stuff, because I'd seen a couple of people wearing quite snazzy suits. Well, straight away from wow. Yeah, aim big. Yeah, that was all. I had no idea how I'd get there. I didn't expect to get there, but I'm one of these people who sets a goal by telling everybody what the goal is, and then I've got to do it, because I'll embarrass myself if I don't. Yeah, a lot of people do that.
it goes one way or the other, I think. I think some people keep their goals close to their chest and they just work away at them themselves, or they tell everybody so that they've got something they have to achieve. And I'm one of those. I like setting a goal, people go, no chance, and then you achieve it and move on to the next one. But I was miles away. I had the right attitude, but technically my swimming was horrendous. My cycling was the least aero I've ever seen. I was a snail. I think I was taller on the bike than I was off it at one stage. And then and the running was still not great at that time, but I was willing to just go to that dark place that maybe other people aren't.
So when you had that in your head about you wanted to aim for a GB slot, what sort of time frame was that? What were you looking at, or was it just going to be when you were ready? Or
just whenever.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what it was going to be. Whether it was going to be. Well, I hadn't heard of duathlon at that point.
Okay.
I didn't know aquabike existed, so I just thought triathlon, and then I thought, well, there's multiple distances. I had no idea. I was very green. I still am in quite a lot of respects, but I just sort of thought, well, if I train in all three disciplines, and that's why I went to start using the coach. He was a cycling specialist. A lot of he's got a sort of a watt bike setup, and I went along to him just to learn how to pedal, really. Because I was a real stomper. I was still wearing trainers on flat pedals. It wasn't pretty. And then he just turned around to me and said, you've got a lot of power. He does a 4K time trial test every few weeks. And I went in and set numbers that they'd never seen before. And he said, right, we need to refine this. We need to get you better, because you're just a lot of power. And that's really been the basis of it. So I've got one discipline that I think I'm strong at, and then the others I've just got to try and bring up to a certain level. But that's where duathlon came in. He said, right, well, you can run okay, and your bike's strong, so buy a TT bike, enter a duathlon, and then we'll put you into a qualifier. So that all happened from buying my TT bike and going to Clumber Park was 6 weeks, I think.
What year we're talking about that you started at the Tri Club and then?
I started at the Tri Club in 2017.
Yeah.
Early 2017, so it was across that winter. So 2017 January, and then 2018 that's when I bought the TT bike and entered the Peopleton Duathlon, which was just a local event. And then
had you done any triathlons before that?
I did the Go Tri sort of super sprint. So I think I was a 200 meter swim.
Yeah.
What was it? 10 kilometer bike, I think, and 2K run. It was.
But that was your only one.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I love this.
Like I said, it was just all very green and bizarre. And then even when I started sort of open water swimming, so I was quite fearful open water swimming. So I started in I found the shallowest lake I could find where I could stand up all the way around, even though it was an hour away. And just started going there and building up confidence, and and then entered a triathlon that summer and caught Veals disease in my first open water triathlon. So that was that wasn't great. That was another 5 months before I was cleared by the doctors to sort of carry on again, even though I had an enlarged heart because of it.
Wow. And have you still got an enlarged heart?
Yeah.
Will that never go?
No, that's there now. It's not such a bad thing. It sounds quite bad and in the wrong body. So if I put on a lot of weight again, that would put a lot of stress on the heart.
Sure.
But what's happened is my resting heart rate has dropped. So I'm at 39 resting heart rate now because the bigger muscle pumps the blood slower. and my max heart rate has dropped. So you just have to learn how it's different within your body and understand that. But I actually went into hospital last year, and every time they changed over the nurses, they all took my heart rate, and because I was just laying up resting and my heart rate was 39, they all thought I was dying. They'd just go running out of the room thinking that my heart rate had dropped. I was like, no, that's how it is.
Yeah. Were you allowed to exercise then during that period, or?
No, so I wasn't allowed to. That took me through till the end of October and November, where I could do very light stuff. I wasn't able to max out the heart rate until they really knew what it was and how it affected me. So I had a lot of scans and things. The NHS were fantastic with it. And then I got to see a specialist who himself was an athlete. And so I could have that conversation about, stressing and what to do. And he actually said, you might be better doing longer distance stuff where your heart rate doesn't spike.
Yeah.
Over the next sort of few weeks, rather than trying to stress it. So I just built up again from a base and worked away to try and get ready for the year after, which always seems to be the plan.
Would be 2019.
Yeah.
Right. Which is crazy, isn't it? Because that's only last year.
Yeah, and I missed most of last year because of skin cancer.
Yeah, I saw that on your email again.
Madness. But because it was where it was on my head, I wasn't able to wear a helmet or a swimming hat for quite a period of time. So I was on the turbo a lot, so I could train and I kept myself fit, and I was out probably doing more miles than I should have been doing.
Yeah.
So wasn't really able to race until I entered a sprint triathlon in September, just to get some race fitness before the duathlon qualifier in October in Bedford. So when everybody else was coming to the end of their season, I was sort of starting line. It was very strange.
So you were actually in peak fitness for that?
Well, I wasn't quite
fresh.
At peak fitness. Yeah, well, I'd had an Achilles problem because I was running too much. My Achilles had sort of flared up again.
I'll tell you what, Lee, if you didn't have bad luck, you'd have no luck at all.
It's not bad luck, it's all self-induced.
So you had an Achilles tendon problem as well on top of that?
Yeah, it's from the tear from sort of 3 years ago. It always, whenever I do too much running, I'm still a heavy guy. I'm still 14 and a bit stone. Right. So when you do a lot of miles on the roads, it can flare up, and I just manage it. Yeah. Maybe ease off the mileage. Yeah. But coming into sort of important races, you can't just ease off. So I had to push through, and got through that triathlon okay. And then it was 3 or 4 weeks later, we were racing at Bedford in the qualifier for the Punters, which, as always, was wet and windy at Bedford.
Yeah, isn't it always windy and wet up there? It doesn't matter what year you go. Yeah. Did I go 2017? And I've never raced in such disgusting conditions. It was just awful.
Well, I think I was there on that day because there was one that was horrendous. Yeah. And I turned up and I didn't feel confident riding my bike in the conditions, so I actually ran the 10K and then withdrew. Right. I didn't even rack my bike up. Yeah. I got there and said, "This isn't for me." Having not had a lot of experience on the TT bike riding in those conditions,
and it's just so open, and if you've got deep rims on your wheels, and it's just, I was out this morning, I got blown around like a paper bag, to be honest, and I only had 404s on. On the TT bike, I've got 808s, and it's not pretty, and I've got no weight at all. I'm like 8 stone, 8.5 stone, wringing wet, so. It's just not. It's not much fun.
You can have some of mine if you want. Yeah, it's not fun. And really being an inexperienced cyclist, doing a lot of training on the watt bike and on the turbo, the one area that I do or have lacked in is just time on the road. So when you get conditions like that, when other guys are taking it on, and some people actually enjoy those conditions because they know other people are very defensive on corners, and they will be slower out in and out of corners, and some people just attack it. And that's where you see the difference. And I just thought, well, I'm going to be tentative.
Yeah.
And if I'm tentative on the bike, I'm not going to qualify anyway because, I'm not one of the lead runners. So I just decided to go and run a flat-out 10K, ran a PB. So I went home feeling like, it would have been worthwhile, and, and I was in one piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then turned up 2019, similar conditions, but I had to race. And I was just obviously a bit more confident on the bike, and just had to race. And I didn't necessarily enjoy it until about lap 4, and then I worked out what racing lines I could take. And every lap I was cornering a little bit sharper and a little bit quicker. And I got used to it. I'm not so concerned about those conditions anymore. The more people ride in them, the better they get, I guess.
Yeah, and it's experience, isn't it? That's it. The more you do it, the better you become. Your bike handling skills improve. So, what was your finishing position at Bedford?
So I finished 5th in age group.
Cool.
I just did a 2-hour 2, I think, which in those conditions was fairly strong. I finished strong, which I was really pleased with, considering I was a bit race rusty.
Yeah.
And it was job done. Yeah. I just needed to do enough to qualify, because I knew that then I was just going to have a really intense winter.
Yeah.
With Punter being so early in the year, it actually, I wasn't going to have any downtime. It was just increase and up the ante from there.
And weren't we lucky to do Punter?
Oh, it was, you couldn't have planned it any better.
Yeah.
And for me, it was extra special because it was my daughter's 4th birthday on the day of the race.
Oh, brilliant!
On the Sunday, so and I had an infection the week before, so I was on a course of antibiotics, and I went into the race having trained a lot for it, but actually went in really relaxed because I thought, I'm not going to be at 100%.
Yeah.
I knew my age group was absolutely stacked. In fact, the 40 to 44 age group had the first 3 overall finishers.
Right.
So it was a pretty stacked age group. And I just relaxed, and I thought, get the race done. We've got a birthday party on the beach in the afternoon, so let's just go and enjoy it. And sometimes I think I maybe get myself a bit too tense before races. I don't particularly sleep well normally.
Yeah.
Overthink things. So, Punter was brilliant. The conditions, excellent. The hotel, the team, and the group, and the course. It was, I couldn't have asked for more. And then we went and spent 4 days in Seville afterwards.
Nice.
Had a nice break, and then got one of the last planes out before Spain shut down.
Yeah. It's weird looking back on it, and I've just been looking on Instagram, and people are putting up loads of photographs about that, and also from Romania a year ago. It's a bit of it's nice to see them all, but it's sad that we haven't been able to do anything this year. But it is.
I think it's the little stuff that you notice as well. In those pictures you see at the finish line, you've got athletes giving other athletes a high five or a hug, or standing there with a drink after the race, talking it over with their arms wrapped around each other, and you think, well, can't even do that with my own mum at the moment.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a different world. I'm not sure how we're ever going to get back to how it was before. I don't know. It just seems a long way away, even though we're going back to a bit of the norm now. But the little stuff seems a long way away. So.
Yeah, I agree. So what's your favourite part of the whole process then?
You know, I was thinking about putting an Instagram post up this morning about this. I think training.
Yeah.
As much as I love the races, and when you go overseas with GB, it is amazing, and it's one of those pivotal lifetime moments to sort of be proud of. But I think the training. I don't know whether it's become a lifestyle.
Yep.
And having been heavy and now lost weight and got myself fit, I think it's just become habit. And it's good for me. It's good for my mental health. It's good for my family because it gives me a release. And the fact that I started all this was because I didn't want to be a fat dad.
Yeah.
I never expected or never planned on in sort of going down there. It was just to lose a bit of weight. So now my daughter thinks that, up till recently, she thought the park run was what everybody does on a Saturday. Because I used to run with a buggy with her. So she thinks everybody runs on Saturday morning. She thinks everybody goes out on their bike. Everybody goes swimming a couple of times a week, which I did with her. So her lifestyle now is around exercise and being healthy. So that's the important thing.
Yeah.
If I stopped training or eased off, then she'd notice that because she sees everything. So
what's wrong with Daddy?
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, why is Daddy a bit more grumpy?
Yeah,
things like that. So it's important. That's the important side, to give her a picture of what a healthy lifestyle is, and the people you meet as well. That I think that's I've always asked the question: if I didn't play sport, I wouldn't know anyone.
Yeah.
And I know obviously you'd have different hobbies, but all of my close friends, all of the whole network of people that I know, and there's a lot of people through a lot of different sports. They all pretty much, 99% come from a sporting background. And I think you get mutual respect because you know how hard people train to get where they are. So when you've got respect, then I think that's important in relationships, whether it be at home or with friends. And I just think there's a special bond. You line up on that race line, whether it's a local 10K or a qualifier, and you look around you and you know all those guys at the front, they've worked 6, 10, 12, 14 hours a week for however long to line up and be in the shape they're in. And that's why I never worry about winning or losing. As long as I can beat myself, that's it. Because I know if anybody beats me, and if they're better than me, good luck to them. Well done, because you don't get there without hard work. So
absolutely,
nobody's got a God-given right to be on the podium. Nobody gets that for free.
No, you've got to earn it, and I agree with you. It's I enjoy training, and I always say you got to love the process. Yeah, because it is a process from starting to racing. It's a complete process, and I think you've got to love the whole thing to do it.
Definitely.
So, what's your training structure? I know you said you've got a coach, and you've had a coach for a while. Yes. Just talk us a little bit through what you do.
So I do a lot of turbo training. That's because I guess it's fallen into place. I started on the turbo, then I started riding out a little bit more, and then with the illnesses and injuries and things, it forced me back onto the turbo. And over the winter, so I've just got used to. That's just the way I train now, and I just try and do a lot of interval training on the bike. A lot of high intensity stuff, high wattage, and just try and keep developing the bike power, because that's my quickest route to improvement. And allow me to catch people up that leave me for dead on the run. But in the meantime, that has a knock-on effect to the running. High cadence work on the bike helps me run quicker. I know that. I'm never going to run a 16-minute 5K, but I have ambitions to run maybe a 17:30. And that's keeping me going. I don't think I'm getting older, but I think I'm getting quicker. So, and there's a lot more to come.
Yeah.
I know that nutrition, that needs an area of work. Just training balance, I think is. I'm still learning, but I still don't know what I want to do long term, and that's where I'm at the moment. I'm doing duathlon because I'm best at duathlon.
About using your strengths, isn't it? Well, I've said this several times. I said to a lot of different people we've had on. You've got to look at where your strengths are and play to those strengths. And if that's duathlon, that's fine. That's my strength as well. I've qualified for few triathlons, but I can qualify easier doing duathlons because my swim's not as good as my running and my bike. So why wouldn't you?
Exactly. The swim is an area that I've been focusing on throughout the winter. My technique's got a lot better, taking chunks off my time. So I was looking forward to this summer doing my first half Ironman. I think I can, I'll be in the middle of the pack swim, which you can draft off people. And then the plan was to go further on the bike. So to get, 56 miles in instead of 25 on an Olympic, that allows me to maybe, gain more places or close that swim gap. Yeah. And then my run, I think I'm more suited to middle distance than the short, sharp stuff anyway, right. Because it becomes a war of attrition, and I don't mind going to that dark place. So I think half Ironman's probably where I'm going to sit over the next 2 or 3 years. Yeah, and whether that means maybe not doing the duathlons or not travelling with the duathlons, because obviously triathlon's a little bit more expensive. We have to balance these things up, and then let's see where I am in 4 or 5 years' time, because my daughter will be 8 or 9 then, and if she's ready for a trip to Kona, then that'll become my focus. Then give her a holiday to Hawaii and start doing the long course stuff.
Yeah, and in the meantime, get her in the pool swimming and.
Yeah, well, just after her 3rd birthday, she swam a full length of a 25-metre
Brilliant.
pool. She rides her bike we didn't even go to stabilisers. She just went straight from a balance bike to pedal bike, and it's just because that's what Daddy does. Yeah. So when we got a bike, she wanted a blue and yellow one because mine's blue and yellow. And, that's the influence of it. So and then in 10 years' time, maybe I can, or 12 years' time, I can share a GB suit with her somewhere. I've seen a few father-daughter combinations out there. So
that'd be nice.
That's the long-term dream, and then I'm happy to sit back and follow her around the world if she wants to do it then.
Lovely. Any hints and tips you've got for multisporters out there that would like to do what we've both done and qualify for GB, or just improve? Actually, that just get better.
Yeah, I think for me it was about putting rocks in my diary to train, because I still have a good career. My wife works very hard, and she's very successful. So to balance work and triathlon is pretty difficult with a youngster. So just finding out what fits the best dynamic, because if you do something that you enjoy and you get support for it, it makes it a lot easier than being at loggerheads with people around you because you're disappearing all the time and so on. So I found for me and for our family, it works if I train early in the morning and late at night, and that works for everybody. Just get a good coach. I think you'll save yourself a lot of time by having a good coach who puts you on the right path. Without that, I think you just look around and do what other people are doing, and that's not always the best strategy, because you often look at the people who are best and you try and copy them. And if you're coming into it green, then those guys have got where they are over 10 years, not over 10 weeks. So you just have to pick a route, set high goals, but achievable goals in a period of time, and just keep progressing and love it. And my other advice would be, buy the best bike now. Don't upgrade and upgrade and upgrade, because that becomes very expensive. If you're committed to it, just go for the best bike. You'll never have to buy an upgrade then.
Wise words.
And only one conversation with the wife about why you're buying bike stuff then, rather than every month.
Yeah, true. Excellent. Good advice there. What are your favourite resources to do with triathlon, duathlon? Where, books, websites?
Interesting. I've started listening to a few podcasts, but that's just more inspirational stuff.
Mm-hmm. Which podcasts do you listen to? Obviously, other than this one.
Well, this one I have on repeat. But when I do have time to get onto any others, I've tried Triathlon&Duathlon.
Yep.
Oxygen Addict.
Yep.
That's a good one. There was one the other day, a new one that Iron. I don't know what it's called. I just clicked on YouTube during training, and I just wanted something and found it. I often sort of put a search in, and I might just pick a triathlete, because I know that a lot of the pros get interviewed a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to listen to sort of Lionel Sanders talking about his life and progression. So Bob Babbitt has done a couple of interviews with him. I don't mind watching the Kona morning, sort of the lead up to Kona, and he does interviews every morning, and just watching old ones, and watching old Olympic triathlon reruns. When you're on the turbo, anything is helpful.
What do you use on the turbo? Are you on Zwift or?
I used to use Zwift. I'm not using Zwift so much now.
Right.
I got a bit sort of bored of it.
Okay.
So I went on to Ruvi.
Yeah. I've heard of it, but I've never used it.
Yeah, it's obviously the same concept, but it's augmented reality. So the way they do it is they film a course and then put your character on that course. So it's real life footage.
Okay.
So you get to cycle around so many different places, and you get real views, real roads. It just feels a little bit more normal than I guess the gamifying style of Zwift. But I use that a little bit, but mainly trainer road. Right. Because I'm not cycling for pleasure indoors. Most of them are to a certain power output. Then trainer road is perfect for that. And then I'll have an iPad set up within my with my view with a film on, or normally a rerun of a triathlon or a Powerman series or something, just to give me a bit of distraction.
An inspiration.
Yeah, it's more of a distraction from the pain than anything else. But anything really. To be honest, I don't really watch it. It's just between intervals. It'll just take away a few seconds, and you start again, and then you're just watching the numbers all the time anyway.
Yeah, excellent. So what's your favourite piece of equipment?
My bike.
Your bike. I think that's quite a common answer. Yeah. What bike have you got?
So I've got a Giant Trinity.
Okay.
Which I bought from Alex Doherty, who's the reigning, although he's not anymore, because obviously we've done the European, but he's won the Worlds and the Europeans over the last couple of years on that bike. Right. And he upgraded, so I bought that. So that was what I've been training on over the winter. Haven't done much miles with it in the before Punter, but yeah, I'm looking forward to the next few years on that. And I've had a bike fit recently, which is another bit of advice I'd suggest. Get a bike fit early on, because that's made the world of difference to comfort.
Yeah. Especially if you're going into the longer distances as well.
Yeah, and that was the plan. That was the idea, to sort of make sure the shoulders and neck are okay. But yeah, she's an absolute dream of a bike, and the whole family know if she's around, then you can talk to her, but you don't touch her. And
Excellent.
yeah, she's one of the family.
And finally, I know you said about your long-term goals that you weren't sure, but have you got a long-term goal that you'd really like to achieve?
Yeah, I think I'd like to go to Kona one day.
Right.
I don't think I'd do very well there because I'm very pale and I don't do well in the heat. So I don't think I think it's an experience just by getting there. But to get there, that would mean a huge commitment. It would mean increasing my training probably 4 or 5 hours a week. And it would mean doing pretty well at a long course or an Ironman event somewhere in Europe probably. So that'd be the journey I'd like to take, but I might have to wait till I'm 50 before I start that, and numbers start dwindling a little bit, and maybe make it easier. But the swimming has definitely got to be worked on before then. But short term, it's to the podium at a middle distance event in the UK. That's I think it's an achievable goal, but it's tough. You don't know who's going to turn up on the day, and there's some amazing athletes out there. And if you don't aim big, then what's the point aiming for anything?
Excellent. Yeah, right. Well, that's a great place to leave it. Thanks for coming on and having this conversation, and it's great to see you, great to meet you, and great to hear your story. So, thanks ever so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. It sounds like Lee's been through the ringer with one thing or another, but it just goes to show what adversity we can overcome. And I believe that Lee's background in sport helped him in his adult life to be determined to get through what he's gone through and to spur him on to his main goal. So well done, Lee. Keep it up. Hope you reach Kona, and we'll be following your adventures along the way. So that's it for episode 7. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast if you've enjoyed it. Also leave us a review, and if you want to get in touch via email at Agegroup Multisport Podcast at gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram at amp_1967, on Facebook at ampgb, and on Twitter at amp-1967. Thanks once again for listening, and don't forget, stay safe, keep training, and love the process.